Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe and turn on notifications. Miles Corbin never imagined his life would unravel. Not like this. Not on an ordinary, quiet Sunday in October. At 42, a university archivist in Portland, Oregon, he believed he had built something permanent. Something solid. A 14-year marriage to Corinne. A 9-year-old daughter, Chloe. And a predictable rhythm that was the bedrock of his entire existence. He wasn't a man who craved adventure. He was a man who catalogued it, who understood the value of preservation. This morning was a testament to that preservation. The smell of buttermilk pancakes, Chloe's laughter, the Sunday morning light. It was a fortress of normalcy. But Corinne was a world away. At 39, she was as striking as the day he'd met her. But a new, glossy veneer had settled over her in the last 3 months. She smiled at Chloe, but it was a fleeting, distracted gesture. Her eyes were fixed on her phone. Miles placed a plate in front of his daughter. "Syrup, sweetie?" "A river of it," Chloe declared. He smiled. A genuine, easy smile. It didn't quite reach his eyes when he glanced at his wife. "Corinne, pancakes are ready." "In a minute, honey," she murmured. Her thumb swiping across the screen. He remembered their beginning. A whirlwind at a friend's wedding. She was ambitious and vibrant. He was the quiet, steady one. The anchor to her kite. For over a decade. It had worked. They had built this life, piece by piece. But history, as Miles knew better than anyone, was subject to revision. Corinne's revision had begun with the workshops. Every Saturday. Sessions on conscious living and personal sovereignty. She came home with bright, feverish eyes. And a new vocabulary. Authenticity. Fulfillment. Transcending limitations. He wrote it off as a phase. A recalibration. It's good she's feeling good about herself, he had thought. Never once suspecting. The foundation beneath his feet was turning to sand. That night, after Chloe was asleep, the house fell into a familiar silence. Miles was reading on the couch. Corinne sat down beside him. Not close enough to be intimate. But close enough to be intentional. She muted the television. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. "Miles," she began, her voice smooth, measured. "We need to talk. About our marriage." His stomach clenched. The archivist in him knew. Certain phrases signal the end of an era. This was one of them. "I love you," she continued, taking his hand. Her touch was cool. Formal. "But I feel like we've become stagnant. Predictable." He frowned. Predictability was what he offered. It was his strength. "In my workshops," she said, her eyes shining with the fervor of a new convert, "I've been learning about different models of relationships, more evolved ones." Miles felt a deep, cold dread. He knew where this was going. Corinne took a deep breath. "I want us to try an open relationship." The words hung in the air, heavy. Impossible. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway sounded like hammer blows. She saw his confusion and nodded, shifting into presentation mode. "It's not about not loving you, Miles. It's about personal growth. Exploring human connections. Without the archaic chains of possession. Love shouldn't be a prison." The way she spoke. So smooth. So rehearsed. This wasn't a spontaneous thought. This was a pitch. A chill ran down his spine. Who had she practiced it with? "Corinne, we have a daughter," he said, his voice hoarse. "We made vows." She shook her head with that infuriating patience. The patience of someone who believes they are spiritually superior. "Exactly. Our commitment is to honesty. This could even strengthen our bond. Make it more authentic." Miles stood up. He needed distance. The room felt small, the air thin. "I need time," he said, his voice firmer than he expected. "I need to think about this." Corinne agreed. But there was something in her smile that he didn't like. Relief. As if the hardest part was over. And his acceptance was now merely an administrative detail. For the next 3 days, sleep was a stranger. He'd lie awake, watching her breathe. The rise and fall of her chest. Who was she? When did it all change? She, on the other hand, was a study in cheerful normalcy. As if requesting to sleep with other people was as reasonable as suggesting they repaint the living room. It was this casualness that terrified him most. His archivist's mind, trained to notice inconsistencies, went into overdrive. He started to see everything he had previously ignored. The way she angled her phone away from him. The calls she took on the back porch, her voice a low murmur. And the new perfume. A heady, floral scent he didn't recognize. She only wore it when she was out with the girls from the workshop. Friday night. Chloe was at her grandparents'. The house was crushingly silent. He tried to watch a documentary, but the narrator's voice was just noise. At 10 o'clock, he went to the bedroom. Corinne's oversized work tote was on the bed. She'd taken her small clutch. He had never, in 14 years, gone through her things. He believed in trust. But trust was a relic now. A historical artifact. Something pushed him. A desperate need for certainty. His hands trembled. He opened the tote. Inside, a small side pocket. His fingers closed around a small, square cardboard box. He pulled it out. A box of condoms. New. With 3 missing. He sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. The box in his palm felt like a live grenade. The air left his lungs in a silent rush. They hadn't used condoms in 7 years. Not since his vasectomy. The answer was a brutal, undeniable fact. She wasn't asking for permission. She was asking for retroactive forgiveness. The anger he expected didn't come. Instead, a chilling, methodical coldness settled deep in his bones. This demanded documentation. He placed the box back. Exactly where he found it. But not before taking a clear, well-lit photo with his phone. His first piece of evidence. She came home at 2 in the morning. He feigned sleep. Through his slitted eyelids, he saw her rush into the bathroom. The shower turned on, frantic and loud. When she finally slipped into bed, the overwhelming smell of soap and shampoo was a desperate attempt to erase something. Or someone. Miles spent the rest of the night staring at the ceiling. The betrayal was no longer a crack in the porcelain. It was a gaping hole. He was no longer a husband trying to save his marriage. He was an archivist. Gathering evidence for a history that needed to be written. Saturday morning arrived, gray and damp. Miles was in the kitchen, a mug of black coffee in his hands. Corinne came downstairs. Radiant. Well-rested. The sight of it filled him with a quiet, simmering rage. He looked at her over the rim of his mug. His expression. Carefully neutral. "I've been thinking," he said calmly. "About the open relationship." She froze. Hope and fear warring in her eyes. "And?" she asked, trying to sound casual. He took a slow sip of coffee. Letting the silence stretch. Finally, he spoke. "I think we should try it." The transformation was almost comical. Relief. Joy. Triumph. She rushed over and hugged him from behind. "Oh, Miles. I knew you'd understand. I knew you were different. More evolved." He let her hug him, his body rigid. His eyes empty. "I just want you to be happy," he said. And it wasn't a lie. He wanted her to be ecstatically, obliviously happy. For a little while longer. On Monday morning, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Miles, it's Julia, Corinne's friend. I really need to talk to you. It's urgent." Julia. Chloe's godmother. Corinne's best friend. He replied immediately. Coffee. That afternoon. She arrived looking serious. Guilty. She didn't waste time with small talk. "I can't keep this to myself anymore," she began. "Corinne is cheating on you." Miles summoned the best performance of his life. Shock. Devastation. "What? What do you mean?" Julia sighed. A deep, weary sound. "She met a guy at those workshops. His name is Kian. He's 29. Calls himself a holistic guide." She shook her head. "They've been seeing each other for over a month. When I told her she was destroying her marriage, she laughed at me. Laughed. Julia paused, her gaze fixed on him. She said, "Oh, Julia, you worry too much. Miles is a good man, he's too nice. He'll accept whatever I decide." Too nice. The word struck him like a physical blow. He kept his voice steady. "She asked me for an open relationship last Tuesday. Julia closed her eyes. I figured as much. She wanted your permission for something she was already doing. A heavy silence settled between them. Then, Julia looked up, her expression vulnerable. Miles. I know the timing is terrible, but I've always admired you. And if you're truly available now, if this marriage is over, I'd like to get to know you better. This time, his surprise was genuine. She was blushing, a raw honesty in her gaze. You're a good man, she rushed on, an amazing father. You deserve someone who sees that. He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Thank you, Julia, he said, his voice thick with an emotion he couldn't name. For everything. When he got home that night, his plan, once a nebulous fog of anger, was now crystal clear. That evening, the confrontation was short. Brutal. He sat in the armchair. A chasm between them. Were you already seeing someone when you asked me? Her face went pale. The silence was her confession. Kian, he stated. 29. A holistic guide. The tears started then. Tears of being caught. Not of remorse. I was going to tell you. I swear, it just happened. No, Miles interrupted. You cheated. Plain and simple. And then you had the audacity to frame it as some kind of spiritual awakening. She tried to move closer. He recoiled. I still love you, she sobbed. Miles laughed. A bitter, unfamiliar sound. You love me? Is that why you told Julia I'm too nice and will accept anything you do? She froze. Julia told you? She whispered. It's funny, he continued, his voice dangerously calm. You were so sure of me, and you were right. I will accept the open relationship you proposed. For real. With all its consequences. Her face was a mask of confusion. What do you mean? He stood up and walked away. You'll find out. End of da. 2 days later, Miles called Julia. Is that dinner offer still on the table? Her answer was immediate. Absolutely. Thursday night. A high-end Italian restaurant. A place Corinne had always wanted to go. It felt perfect. He prepared with the precision of a soldier. New shirt. Good cologne. Sharp haircut. He was putting on his armor. You're going out? Corinne asked, her voice uneasy. Yeah, he replied simply. Open relationship, remember? I'm exploring connections. I do. She forced a nervous laugh. With who? He gave her a cool smile as he walked out the door. You'll find out. Dinner with Julia was surprisingly natural. He felt seen. He felt like himself again. Midway through dinner, he took out his phone. A photo of them clinking wine glasses. He posted it to Instagram. Tagged the location. The caption was simple. Pointed. New discoveries with genuine people. His phone exploded. 14 missed calls from Corinne. Then the texts. Frantic. Is that Julia? Are you serious, Miles? Answer me now. This is not okay. This is cheating. He showed the phone to Julia. She just shook her head. She really didn't expect consequences, did she? Miles turned his phone off. 20 minutes later, she appeared. Bursting through the doors. Face blotchy. Eyes frantic. She marched to their table. What the hell do you think you're doing? She hissed. Julia remained perfectly calm. She took a slow sip of wine. We're having dinner, she replied smoothly. Shut up. Corinne shrieked, making heads turn. You're my best friend. How could you do this to me? Julia placed her glass down. Her voice was cold as ice. Was your best friend. And I can do this because, unlike you, I waited until he was officially available, in an open relationship. The one you asked for. Miles stood up. Corinne, you need to leave, you're making a scene. She turned to him, tears streaming. Miles, please. She's my friend. This is wrong. Something inside him finally snapped. Wrong? He said, his voice low but cutting. You want to talk about wrong? Where was your sense of right and wrong when you were sleeping with Kian, before you even spoke to me? When you laughed behind my back and called me too nice to question you? The color drained from her face. She looked around. She had an audience. You wanted an open relationship, Miles continued. Congratulations. You got one. But that means I have freedom, too. And I'm choosing to exercise it, with someone who respects me. Julia stood beside him. You're a hypocrite, Corinne. You wanted to cheat without consequences. You wanted him to wait for you like a loyal dog. That's not an open relationship. That's just cruelty. The manager approached. Perhaps you should take this outside. Corinne looked at Miles one last time. Pleading. She found nothing but cold, hard finality. With a choked sob, she ran. Miles and Julia sat back down. For the first time in months, he felt a profound sense of peace. The game was over. And he had won. The story of the Italian dinner spread like wildfire. Julia, in a calculated move, posted a photo. Her and Miles at a park. Hands linked. Chloe running ahead. The caption was devastatingly effective. Finding happiness with people who value loyalty over trends. The comments section became a digital battlefield. Corinne was losing. Badly. 2 days later, Keon the holistic guide broke up with her. Via text. This is way too much drama for me. He blocked her number. Miles had already consulted a lawyer. He had documented everything. The photo of the condom box. The screenshots. The private investigator's report. Confirming meetings at a budget motel. The divorce petition was filed. He requested primary custody of Chloe. He cited emotional instability. Neglect. He had witnesses. Corinne fought back. Her lawyer argued that Miles was alienating Chloe from her mother. But the judge was not impressed, especially when Miles's lawyer presented the timeline, showing Corinne had introduced Chloe to Keon just 1 week after her proposal. The hypocrisy was laid bare. The process lasted 8 months. Miles and Julia became inseparable. Chloe began to thrive. The asset division was brutal for Corinne. The house went to Miles. Her share of the equity was wiped out by her share of the credit card debt. Debt from workshops, new clothes, gifts for Keon. She lost friends. She lost her financial footing. She lost the respect of her community. The final blow came in a certified letter from Julia's lawyer. Inside, a handwritten note. Loyalty, respect, and honesty are the pillars of any relationship. You destroyed all three. Not because you fell for someone else, but because of the cruel, manipulative way you handled it. You laughed at the man who loved you unconditionally for 14 years. You reaped what you sowed. Don't try to contact me again. Corinne was left with nothing but the consequences of her own choices. 10 months later, life had settled into a new, brighter rhythm for Miles. He and Julia had moved into a new house. Chloe had a new room, painted lilac. Miles smiled more. He laughed from the belly. He had regained a lightness he hadn't even realized was gone. Corinne, meanwhile, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. Her career had suffered. Her social media was dormant. Their paths crossed on a crisp October afternoon. Chloe's soccer game. Miles and Julia sat on the bleachers, cheering. Corinne arrived late. She stood alone on the other side of the field, trying to disappear. When Chloe scored a goal, she ran straight to Miles and Julia. They enveloped her in a triumphant hug. Did you see? I did it. On the other side of the field, Corinne watched. No one sat near her. After the game, Chloe ran over to hug her mom. I scored, Mom. Corinne hugged her back. Too tightly. Too long. Aunt Julia is making my favorite cake. Are you coming? The innocent question was a knife to the gut. No, sweetie, Mommy has things to do. Chloe just shrugged and ran back. Corinne watched the three of them walk toward the parking lot. A family. The perfect, happy family she once had. And had carelessly thrown away. She drove to her silent apartment. The walls were bare. The refrigerator empty. The silence was a physical thing. She sat on her thrift store sofa, scrolling through old photos on her phone. One from their wedding. Miles looking at her as if she were the center of the universe. When had it all gone so wrong? When had she decided that this profound, steady love was not enough? The workshops had promised authenticity, fulfillment. What she had gained was an empty apartment. And a daughter who was happier with her aunt. She searched for Julia's profile. The most recent photo, Chloe blowing out candles on a cake. Miles and Julia on either side. All of them smiling. The caption, grateful for this family. No one mentioned Corinne. It was as if she had been erased. She tossed her phone onto the sofa. Outside, Portland was alive. Life was happening, while she was frozen in the consequences of her own making. She thought about texting Julia. To apologize. To beg. But she knew that bridge had been burned. Blown up. By her own arrogance. She wanted to scream. To cry. But she was just too tired. So she sat there. In the deepening twilight. In her silent apartment. And finally understood. With perfect, excruciating clarity. An open relationship doesn't open new doors. It only reveals which ones you've already slammed shut behind you. And some doors, once locked, can never be opened again. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.